The clock was ticking down to zero, and Liu was cutting it dangerously close to the biggest moment of her entire career. It was opening week at the 2026 Milano-Cortina Winter Games, and the pressure on Team USA was heavy enough to snap a steel beam. For Alysa, this was supposed to be the redemption tour, the night the burnt-out prodigy would silence the haters and reclaim the crown that was rightfully hers. But instead of getting in the zone, visualizing her routine, or finding a quiet corner to warm up her legs, she was held hostage in the back of a sedan. A VIP motorcade had turned the twisting streets of Milan into a parking lot, leaving America's golden girl stuck in gridlock while her fiercest rivals were already lacing up and carving fresh ice. In Olympic figure skating, where a millimeter separates glory from disaster, messing with the pre-game ritual is usually a death sentence. 99% of competitors would have been a total wreck. Most athletes would have arrived in a full-blown panic, watching their lifelong dreams evaporate in the middle of Italian traffic. But when Alysa Liu finally burst through those arena doors with seconds to spare, she wasn't hyperventilating. She wasn't falling apart. She was laughing her head off. She threw on her skates in record time, skipped the critical 6-minute warm-up completely, and stepped straight into the fire. What happened next shattered every rule in the playbook on how an Olympian is supposed to act. She threw down a short program so electric, so unapologetically happy, it left the entire building stunned. When she went for her signature double axel and landed with a slight bobble, she didn't crumble. There was no terrified glance at the judges, no look of horror like she'd just committed a crime against the sport. She just flashed a relaxed, almost amused grin. When the press grilled her about the mistake later, she gave a classic shrug and dropped a casual, "Oopsie." That oopsie wasn't just a blooper reel moment. It was a manifesto broadcast live to millions. It told the world that the Alysa Liu standing in Milan was a different beast than the exhausted teenager who vanished 4 years ago. She wasn't back to chase hardware. She was back to reclaim her soul. It proves that when you stop fixating on the cold math of the scoreboard and fall in love with the art again, you become untouchable. To understand the magnitude of this comeback, we have to rewind the tape. We need to look at the hollow eyes of the girl who once ruled this game before she was even old enough to drive. Before she was Milan's rebel queen, Alysa was the blueprint of what American skating wanted to build. Raised in Clovis, California, and forged in the cutthroat Bay Area circuit, she was engineered to be a weapon on ice. Her father, Arthur, reportedly poured over $1 million into her career before she even started high school. Her life was a hunt for gold. At just 12 years old, she became the youngest skater ever to land a triple axel on the world stage. By 13, she did the impossible, snatching the US title and smashing a record Tara Lipinski had held for more than 20 years. She was the chosen one, the perfect package with the braids, and the media-trained smile, shouldering the crushing weight of saving American skating from the Russian quadruple jump machine. But behind the sequins and the glitz, the prodigy was suffocating. Her childhood was a blur of 5 a.m., alarms, freezing rinks, and doing homework in the back seat on the freeway. She was a bubbly, charismatic kid, locked in solitary confinement, trapped in a protective bubble that kept her from having a life while simultaneously tossing her into the meat grinder of online forums where strangers dissected her weight, her jumps, and her puberty 24/7. By the time she hit the 2022 Beijing Games at 16, the tank was empty. The ice princess facade was cracking. She was throwing dangerous, body-breaking quads in a sport she had grown to hate. While the world watched her grind out a 6th-place finish amidst the COVID haze and scandals, Alysa was just looking for the exit sign. She wasn't competing for glory in China. She was plotting her escape. Weeks after snagging bronze at Worlds, she dropped a bombshell and retired. The 16-year-old phenom didn't just walk away from the sport that owned her life, she ran. For 2 full years, those custom-molded boots sat gathering dust in a dark closet. In a raw interview later, she admitted she didn't even know where her skates were. That was Alysa's wilderness period. For the first time, she tasted absolute freedom. 20 years of existence, and this was her first real shot at figuring out who she actually was. She shattered every unwritten rule the dusty, uptight skating elite held sacred. She hit the road on impulse trips with regular kids who couldn't distinguish a Lutz from a loop if their lives depended on it. She dove into psychology at UCLA, finally soaking up the messy, beautiful chaos of a social life she'd been starved of since childhood. She trekked all the way to Nepal, trading the sterile chill of indoor rinks for the thin, dangerous air of Everest Base Camp. She picked up a tennis racket and spiked volleyballs, rediscovering the joy of sweat without a judge grading her every move. During the hiatus, she seized control of her image. While figure skating bowed to tradition, Alysa torched the rulebook. She rocked bold platinum stripes in her hair like a raccoon and hid a rebellious smiley piercing right behind her lip. She curated an edgy Gen Z vibe that would send old-school European coaches into cardiac arrest, fully convinced her competitive days were dead and buried. She looked reporters in the eye and admitted she'd fallen out of love with the sport. She wanted zero contact with the corporate machine that had robbed her of her teenage years. But early 2024 brought a shift. And no, it wasn't US figure skating begging on their knees. It wasn't a paycheck dangling in her face. It hit her on a random ski getaway with her crew. Tearing down the mountain, feeling the bite of the wind and the rush of gravity, something snapped back into place. She realized she didn't hate the ice. She missed the adrenaline. She missed the ability to fly. The skating wasn't the enemy. The enemy was the suffocating, toxic atmosphere surrounding it. So she snuck into a crowded public session, dodging toddlers and weekend warriors, just to see if the magic was still in her legs. She strapped on battered old skates, cut across the ice, threw a double axel and nailed it cold. That single landing sparked a flame that refused to die. But this comeback, it was going to run on a whole new operating system. If Alysa Liu was stepping back into the arena, it wouldn't be on her father's schedule or for the Federation's trophy case. This was 100% her call. Her music cuts, her costume designs. She adopted a sanity-first mindset, prioritizing her own joy over Olympic hardware. The 2025 season was meant to be a soft launch, a test run to see if she could hang after years of dorm life and late-night pizza. Instead, she unleashed a devastating storm of technical mastery and raw emotion. At the 2025 Worlds in Boston, the cameras were glued to the powerhouse Japanese squad. No one bet on Alysa Liu with less than a year of training to hunt for gold. Then, the music started. She dropped a personal best in the short program that left the building breathless, skating with a quiet confidence her younger self never knew. She wasn't begging for approval, she was sharing her soul. The free skate was nothing short of magic. She became the first American woman in 19 agonizing years to snatch the world title, shattering a brutal dry spell that had plagued US skating since Kimi Meisner in 2006. But the real victory wasn't the medal around her neck. It was her raw reaction in the kiss and cry. She wept openly, not from relief, but from genuine pride in the masterpiece she had just painted on the ice. She had reclaimed her sport from the ghosts of her past. She told Boston reporters, "Point-blank medals don't define her. I validate myself when I create art." Enter Alysa 2.0, a competitor who views the Olympics as a stage and the scoreboard as background static. Fast forward to the main event, the 2026 Milano-Cortina Games, where the Blade Angels took over. The name was just an inside joke in group chats between Alyssa Amber Glenn and Isabeau Levito. It symbolized a bond forged in the fire of a brutal, solitary sport designed to pit girls against each other. Together, they morphed into the most iconic, beloved trio in the history of American skating, a squad of unapologetic rebels who smashed the delicate ice princess stereotype to pieces. During the high-stakes team event earlier this month, Alyssa was the live wire powering the American squad. Despite the chaos of a VP motorcade delay and zero warm-up time, her gritty second-place finish secured 9 vital points that swung the momentum. She skated with a wild, infectious freedom that ignited the whole team. When Team USA mounted the podium for their repeat gold, Alyssa was the one jumping the highest, screaming. The loudest, totally lost in the perfection of the moment. Let's talk about the hardware malfunction heard round the world. She was so amped up bouncing off the walls that the gold medal literally snapped off the ribbon and smashed onto the ice. The thing got mangled, scratched, dented the works. She just laughed it off on camera and the internet absolutely ate it up. The suits from the Olympic Committee panicked, rushing over to offer a shiny, perfect replacement from the vault. Alysa just looked at them and said, "Nah, I'm good. Shut them down cold." She told the baffled officials she actually wanted the broken one. The flaws were the point. That battered, beat-up piece of gold was the perfect metaphor for her grind. Not polished, not fairy tale perfect, rough around the edges, but 100% real. That authenticity made millions of kids fall in love with her. They were sick of the robotic media-trained soundbites we get spoon-fed every 4 years. Fast forward to tonight, February 19th, 2026, the Winter Games finale. Alysa Liu hits the ice for the free skate. The tension in the building is thick enough to cut with a knife. But take a look backstage. While her rivals from Japan and South Korea are pacing circles, staring into the void and crumbling under the crushing weight of national expectation. Alysa is chilling with a Chainsaw Man plushie, slurping udon noodles and talking anime fan theories with her coaches. Tonight is the big show. Defending world champ, Grand Prix queen. The heavy favourite to smash the 24-year curse haunting Team USA since Sarah Hughes shocked the world in Salt Lake back in 2002. Name announced. But Alysa isn't sweating the history books or the anthem. She's chasing joy. She glides to centre ice. The crowd goes dead silent. She hits her opening mark and flips the script. Big, deep cleansing breath. This new program, it's all about independence. She ditched the tragic classical music everyone uses to milk the artistic scores. She stepped out in a fierce gold fit, cranking the volume on Donna Summer's MacArthur Park Suite. It's disco. It's brassy. It's bold. Totally electric. What followed was a masterclass in efficiency and mental steel. She didn't break her body trying to force those bone-crushing quads. She went for surgical precision instead. 7 triple jumps landed like butter. Effortless flow that had the judges scrambling to award bonus points. The spins were locked in. Footwork on fire. But the real magic wasn't in the technical sheet, it was the vibe. Between the elements, Alysa was actually vibing with the 12,000 fans in the stands, locking eyes with the front row. Performing for the people, not the scoreboard. Even the commentators noticed she looked like she was having a blast, which is unheard of in an Olympic final pressure cooker. That relaxed, happy energy was her ace in the hole. She figured out how to be the GOAT without losing her soul. When the final disco beat dropped and Alysa struck that last pose, you knew it was over. The place erupted. A deafening wall of noise from 12,000 people. Alysa threw her hands up, head back, soaking in the roar of history being made. The screen lit up. A massive personal best 150.2 in the free, totaling a staggering 226.79 overall. Reality set in. The Oopsie queen was now the undisputed Olympic queen. She fought off the Japanese juggernauts and buried that 24-year American gold drought for good. But honestly, the comeback story is the real headline. Alysa didn't grab gold by copying the toxic robotic playbooks of the last 2 decades. No starvation diets, no fear tactics, no overtraining until she broke. She won by being the most balanced, genuine human out there on the ice. This win is a total paradigm shift for the sport. It proves that mental health and having a life aren't distractions, they're competitive superpowers. Her medal screams a message to every burned-out kid feeling that same suffocation she felt at 16. It says you can take a break. You can have a life outside the rink. It says your worth isn't tied to a trophy case or how many times you can rotate in the air. The United States Figure Skating Federation, which once they looked at 13-year-old Alysa as an asset to control, but now they have to bow to the 20-year-old icon who saved them. Yet standing at the absolute pinnacle of the sports world, Alysa keeps it incredibly hilariously real. She told the press that the best part of this historic night wasn't actually the gold around her neck. It was going absolutely nuts with her friends hugging her. Rivals and hitting the Italian streets for pizza with her family. She is hands down the most relatable superstar in skating history. This victory in Milan is not about the heavy hardware she is wearing. It is entirely about the freedom she had to fight like hell to get back. She proved to the world that greatness is not about how much pain you can swallow in silence. It is measured by the guts to make your own calls. She walked away when it broke her. She came back when she found the joy. She picked the music. She picked the team. She rocked that wild raccoon hair. And in the end, the judges picked her. Standing on that podium in Italy watching the Stars and Stripes rise, she did not look like some robotic machine drilled to perfection. She looked exactly like someone who has lived a dozen lives in just 20 years and finally found the one that fits. Alysa Liu did not just win gold in Milan, she took back her life. She showed a whole generation of kids that the most badass rebellious thing you can do on the ice isn't a quad. It is the fearless decision to be 100% yourself no matter what the critics say. The 2026 Winter Games will be legendary, but the story of the Rebel Queen changes this sport's DNA forever. Milan belongs to her. The drought is dead. Alysa Liu is exactly where she chose to be.